The world is always changing. Countries that are strong now might not be strong in the future. This is not new. If we look back in history, we can see that world power changes over time. Think about big countries from the past, like the Roman Empire or the British Empire. They were very powerful once, but now none of them exists anymore. This video is about these big changes in world power. We will look at how power moves from one country to another. We will try to understand this in a simple and clear way. Learning about it will give you ideas about how and why world can change, and how and why it will change your life as well. To understand these changes, we will use a method from Ray Dalio. He is a billionaire businessman, but he also studies how the world works, especially money and power. His idea is that history repeats itself in cycles. Think of it like seasons. There are always summers and winters. The other word for it is a cycle. History also has its own seasons, with very good times and very bad times, coming again and again. We will look at these cycles to see what we can learn. Ray Dalio says there are three main things that change world power. Imagine these as big forces that push and pull countries. First, there is the money and debt cycle. This is like a country's money story. Sometimes countries have a lot of debt, like when you borrow too much money. This can cause problems for their power. Second, there is the power and wealth cycle inside a country. This is about how rich and poor people are, and how much power different groups have in the country. If there is a big gap between rich and poor, it can cause problems too. Third, there is the power cycle between countries. This is about how strong different countries are compared to each other. Sometimes a new country becomes stronger and starts to challenge the old powerful country. This can also change world power. In this book, we will explore these three big cycles. We will look at history to understand how they work and how they change world power. It's important to remember that we cannot know everything. The world is very complex, and there are many things we don't understand. But by looking at the big picture and using simple ideas, we can learn a lot about how the world changes. 2. Money and debt cycles. Money and debt are important parts of the economy. They go through cycles, like the seasons. Understanding these cycles helps us understand how the world economy changes. Money is what we use to buy things. Credit is like borrowing money to spend now and pay back later. Debt is what you owe when you borrow money. When people and businesses borrow and spend, the economy grows. This is the start of a debt cycle. At the beginning, debt is low, and money is often hard money. Hard money is something real, like gold. Then, people start to use claims on hard money. These are like promises, pieces of paper that say you can get real money, like notes. Slowly, people borrow more and more. Debt increases. This can be good for a while. People buy more, businesses grow, and jobs are created. But if debt grows too fast, problems start. Sometimes people cannot pay back their debts. This is a debt crisis. Businesses may close, people lose jobs, and the economy slows down. Sometimes countries cannot pay back their debts either. This can cause big problems for everyone. When there is a debt crisis, countries may have defaults. This means they stop paying their debts. They may also have devaluations. This means their money becomes worth less compared to other money, or things like gold. To help the economy when it is down, central banks often act. Central banks are like the banks for all the other banks in a country. They can try to make borrowing cheaper by lowering interest rates. They can also print more money. Printing money can help in the short term, but if they print too much money, it can become less valuable. Some money is more important in the world than other money. The money that many countries and people use for trade and saving is called a reserve currency. The US dollar is currently the main reserve currency. Having a reserve currency is powerful for a country, but it can also lead to problems over time. These money and debt cycles are always happening. Understanding them helps us see how economies grow and shrink, and how money changes its value. 3. How money changes. Money is something we use every day. But money is not always the same. The value of money can go up and down. Sometimes, money can even become worthless or disappear completely. Think about old money from many years ago. Some countries used to have different types of money that are not used now. This shows that money changes over time. What does money lose value against? Sometimes it loses value against gold. Gold is a metal that people have always seen as valuable. If money loses value against gold, it means you need more of that money to buy the same amount of gold. Money also loses value against things we buy, like food, houses, and petrol. This is called inflation. When money loses value against these things, it means things become more expensive. You need more money to buy the same things you bought before. History shows us that this has happened many times. Countries have had their money lose value. Sometimes, a country's money was important around the world, like a reserve currency. But over time, this money could also lose its value and stop being a reserve currency. Why does money change value? One reason is when governments print more money. If there is more money, but not more things to buy, the money becomes less valuable. This is called monetary inflation. It is like having more water in a glass. The water level goes down. When money loses value, it can be a problem for people and countries. It is important to understand that money is not always stable and can change over time. Knowing this helps us to understand the world of money better. 4. Old empires and their money. In the past, there were powerful countries called empires. These empires controlled many lands and were very rich. Two famous old empires are the Dutch Empire and the British Empire. They were important for a long time, and their money was used around the world. First, let's talk about the Dutch Empire. A long time ago, Holland, a small country, became very strong. They had good schools and clever people. They were good at trading and making new things. Their ships went everywhere to buy and sell goods. Because of this, they became rich and powerful in the 1600s. Their money was called the Dutch guilder, and it was used a lot in Europe and other places for trade. But after some time, other countries became stronger. The Dutch started to have problems with debt and wars, especially with Britain. Slowly, the Dutch Empire became less powerful. Then, the British Empire became very strong. Britain also had good schools and made new things. They traded all over the world, just like the Dutch. The British Empire grew and grew. In the 1800s, Britain was the most powerful country in the world. Their money was the British pound. It was used everywhere for trade and savings. People trusted the British pound. But, like the Dutch, the British Empire also started to have problems. They spent too much money, and other countries like America became more powerful. After World War II, Britain was not as strong as before. Both the Dutch guilder and the British pound were important currencies. When these empires were strong, their money was strong. People used their money because they trusted the empires. But when the empires became weaker, their money also became less important. The British pound slowly became less important than the money of the new powerful empire, America, and its dollar. When empires rise, their money becomes important. When empires fall, their money becomes less important. This is a cycle that has happened many times in history. Understanding old empires and their money helps us understand how the world changes. 5. The USA and the dollar. The United States became a very powerful country, and its money, the dollar, became important all over the world. This happened after the Second World War. After the war, many countries made an agreement called Bretton Woods. This agreement said that the dollar was linked to gold, and other countries' money was linked to the dollar. This made the dollar very strong and useful for world trade. After some years, things started to change. The rules of Bretton Woods began to have problems. In the late 1960s, the USA had economic problems. They started to spend more money than they had. This made people lose trust in the dollar. In 1971, the USA stopped saying that dollars could be exchanged for gold. This was the end of the Bretton Woods system. After this, the world used a new money system. This new system is called a fiat system. In a fiat system, money is not linked to gold or anything real. Its value comes from the government and people's trust. This new system gave the USA more freedom to print money, but it also brought new problems. In the 1970s, there was a lot of inflation in the USA and other countries. Inflation means that prices go up, and money buys less. To stop inflation, the USA had to make big changes in its money policy around 1980. This helped to bring inflation down, but it also caused some problems. The USA has a central bank called the Federal Reserve, or the Fed. The Fed tries to control the economy by changing interest rates and the amount of money in the system. After 2008, there was a big financial crisis. To help the economy, the Fed did something new. It started to print a lot of money and buy things to support the economy. This is called quantitative easing. Now, the USA is in a position where it has a lot of debt. Interest rates are very low. Some people worry about inflation again. The USA is still a very powerful country, and the dollar is still the world's most important money. But there are also challenges. It is important to watch how the USA manages its money and debt in the coming years. This will affect not only the USA, but also the whole world. 6. China's rise. China has been a very powerful country for a long time in history. For many centuries, China was richer and more powerful than countries in Europe. They were good at making things and trading. But around the year 1800, this started to change. In the 1800s and early 1900s, China became weaker. European countries and America became stronger. China had problems with its government and economy. There were wars and poverty. From being a world power, China became a much weaker country. This time is called the Century of Humiliation in China. After many years of problems, China changed its direction. Starting in 1978, China began to make big changes to its economy. These changes are called economic reforms and opening up. China started to use ideas from capitalism, like having businesses that make profit. They also opened up to trade and investment from other countries. These changes helped China's economy grow very fast. Millions of people became richer. China became a big factory of the world, making things for other countries to buy. Today, China is the second biggest economy in the world. It is also becoming stronger in technology and military power. Now, China is a very important country again. It is a big power in the world, like the United States. But the US and China are different in some ways. The US is still stronger in some areas, like having the world's money, the dollar. China is strong in making things, and its economy is growing faster. They are both very big and important countries, but they also have some problems and weaknesses. China's rise is one of the most important changes in the world today. 7. USA and China, working together and fighting. The USA and China are the two biggest countries in the world economy. They are very important for everyone. Sometimes, these two countries need to work together. For example, they can work together to help the world economy or to solve big problems like climate change. But often, the USA and China are fighting, not with guns, but in other ways. We can think of these as different kinds of wars. One kind of war is about money and trade. This is called an economic war. The USA and China sell things to each other. But sometimes, they put extra taxes, called tariffs, on things from the other country. This makes things more expensive for people in both countries. It can hurt businesses and make it harder for companies to make money. This economic fight can make the world economy weaker and cause problems for many people. Another fight is about technology. This is the technology war. Technology is very important now. It is how we make computers, phones, and many other things we use every day. The USA and China both want to be the best in new technologies. They try to stop each other by making it harder for companies to buy and sell technologies. This can slow down new ideas and make technology more expensive for everyone. There is also a geopolitical war. This is about power and influence in the world. The USA is still the most powerful country, but China is becoming stronger very quickly. They want to have more influence in different parts of the world, like Asia and Africa. They disagree about many things, like rules for international waters and how countries should behave. This fight for power can make some areas of the world less safe and less stable. A capital war is another kind of fight. This is about money and investments going between countries. The USA and China have different rules about how money moves and how investments work. The USA wants China to change its rules to be more like theirs. This capital war can make it harder for companies to invest and do business in both countries and across the world. The most serious war people talk about is a military war. This is a real war with soldiers and weapons. The USA and China both have very strong armies and navies. They watch each other carefully in areas like the South China Sea. If there was a military war, it would be very dangerous for everyone and could hurt many innocent people. People are working hard to avoid this kind of war. There is also something like a culture war. People in the USA and China have different cultures, histories, and ideas about what is important. Americans often value individual freedom very much. Chinese culture often values the good of the group and respect for leaders. These cultural differences can sometimes lead to misunderstandings and make it harder for the countries to agree on things and trust each other. These different wars between the USA and China are very risky. They can make the world a more dangerous place for everyone. They can also make the world economy weaker and poorer. It is very important for the USA and China to find ways to talk to each other and work together. If they can find ways to cooperate and understand each other, it will be good for both countries and for the whole world. If they only focus on fighting, it could create big problems for all of us. 8. Problems inside countries. Every country has times of peace and times of trouble. This chapter talks about these times inside a country. It is like a cycle. First, things are usually calm and organized. Then, slowly, problems start to appear. One big problem is money. If some people have a lot of money and others have very little, this can cause trouble. It's not fair, and people get angry. Another problem is when people have very different ideas about politics. If people can't agree on what is right for the country, they start to fight. Also, if the economy is not doing well, people become unhappy. They may lose their jobs or have less money. These problems can make a country go from order to disorder. Imagine a country is doing well. People have jobs, and there is peace. This is a good time. But then, things can change. People might start to want more and more. They might borrow too much money. Some people might get too rich, and others are left behind. Slowly, the peace starts to break. People argue more. They might even start to protest or fight. In the worst cases, this can lead to big problems, like civil wars or revolutions. In these times, the country is in disorder. It is a very difficult time for everyone. Think about the USA now. There are some problems inside the country. There are wealth gaps. Some people are very rich, and some people are poor. There are also political differences. People on different sides don't agree on many things. It is important to watch these problems. They can show us where the country is in its cycle of order and disorder. Understanding this cycle can help us see what might happen next.
Hey there! Just a second before you go. If you learned something new today, please give this video a like, write your thoughts in the comments, and subscribe to the channel. It only takes a second, and it really, really helps to create even better English videos for you. Your support means the world. Thank you.